Andy, my dude, have you heard of the magical website builder known as Squarespace?
Ugh, not another Squarespace ad. I feel like every podcast is sponsored by them.
Hey, don't knock it till you try it. Yes, okay, it is overhyped, but actually it lives up to the hype. Squarespace is like a website fairy godmother. With a click of a button, your site transforms into a beautiful masterpiece.
A website fairy godmother? That sounds interesting. What makes it so magical?
Well, for starters, those slick templates make anyone look like a professional web designer. Pick one, customize the colors and fonts to match your brand, and voila. Plus, the drag and drop fluid engine is so easy, your grandma could build a site on Squarespace.
Well, she did knit me a lovely scarf last Christmas. Maybe website design is next.
Exactly. And when you're ready to sell your Nana's handmade scarves online, Squarespace has built-in e-commerce. Add a store with one click. Get flexible payment options. Then watch those sales roll in. And when she wants to teach others her steezy scarf skills, Squarespace's new courses feature is just the ticket. Nana can set up her curriculum and enrollments and payments in a snap and become the next e-knitting influencer.
Oh, wow, you really sold me with the grandma angle. Sign me up for that free trial.
Just go to thenextreel.com/Squarespace and transform your site into a beautiful Squarespace masterpiece.
Well, thanks, Pete. Even though it's overhyped, Squarespace actually sounds perfect for Nana's site's needs. Appreciate the warning on the ads, though. I'll brace myself next time I listen to a podcast.
Anytime. Let me know if you need any help getting that site up and running. Andy, can you believe we've almost hit 700 episodes of The Next Reel?
I know, it's crazy. And with all the other episodes in our family of podcasts, we are well over 1,200 episodes of movie conversation. It's really pretty amazing that we've gotten to have these in-depth movie chats every week for over a decade now.
And we couldn't have done it without our loyal community of film fans. Their support over the years has meant so much.
For sure. That reminds me, we should give the merch store a shout out. Buying shirts from thenextreel.com/merch is a great way listeners can continue to support the show. Plus, they get to sport our great designs.
Absolutely. I think sometimes folks forget we have a variety of shirts, mugs, phone cases, and more available. In fact, a great place to start is with a shirt sporting the Next Reel's logo.
We also have that classic Fast Times Spicoli Surf School tee, or the weirdly popular Rusty's European Tour shirt.
The one from National Lampoon's European Vacation. Why is that so popular?
Search me, but we have sold a ridiculous number of those. I guess there are a lot of Rustys taking trips to Europe?
We're always adding new designs based on movies we've covered, like our brand new design for a streetcar named Desire, featuring a streetcar named Desire. So if you want to rep your love of TNR and films, head to thenextreel.com/merch.
Every purchase helps us continue to have these weekly in-depth conversations. So visit thenextreel.com/merch today.
And as always, thanks for listening and being a part of the Next Reel community. We've got lots more great movie chats coming your way. I'm Pete Wright.
And I'm Andy Nelson.
Welcome to The Next Reel. When the movie ends,
our conversation begins.
In just a matter of seconds, you're going to hear a classic episode of this show from back in the day when we called ourselves Movies We Like.
It took us a while to settle into the show's format, so you'll notice some differences as you listen to these episodes. For instance, it takes us a bit of time to actually get into the conversation about the movie. Things like that.
But we're still proud of the conversations about the movies themselves, and we think they're worth keeping in the library.
So enjoy these episodes from our back catalog. And you can become part of our Discord community, learn more about the show, and find out how you can become a supporting member at thenextreel.com.
So thank you, everybody, for downloading and listening to The Next Reel. We appreciate your time and attention, and we hope you enjoy the show.
What film or story would you say that you've seen or heard or read more than any other story that you really just don't like at all? Is there one?
Well,
do you ever think about that? Do you go,
yeah,
I have seen this so many times, and boy, I just don't like it.
Well, there's a trope, and this just came up, and I think we talked about it maybe a little bit during there. It's Cinderella is a big one for me. I that's ages poorly on me.
Yes. Very true. Well, I was thinking about this because
are you talking about just one that you're just fatigued? You're just tired of it?
No, and I just realized I just don't like it.
Oh,
I really don't like it. It's Peter Pan. I have seen the play, many times. I've taken the kids to it. I've seen it when friends have done it back in college or whatever. I've seen that play a lot. I've seen the Disney movie a lot. I've seen iterations of it a lot. People keep telling that story and in different ways. And Steven Spielberg had his version, and everybody has these different versions of it. And as much as there are elements to the various versions that people make, like the songs in the Disney one, at least not the non-racist songs, I'll say, can be a bit enjoyable. And there's some fun to the idea of going off to Neverland and flying and pirates and mermaids and all of that sort of thing. But man, I am just done with that story. I really am done with it. It's just, it wears on me. And
You've become the old man. You are, who else said this? Robin Williams in Hook.
Yeah,
you have become old Peter.
Whoa.
I'll bet you can't hear the magic bell when it rings either, as it comes by from Polar Express.
Oddly enough, my daughter was shaking one in my ear earlier tonight.
And you heard nothing.
Lo and behold, I heard nothing.
Yeah.
Get off my lawn!
So we have been, the truth is we have been backpedaling a little bit for a number of weeks. We've been stocking up on shows for a number of weeks, and it's been exhausting. We've been recording and watching a lot of movies.
So many movies.
Doing so many shows so fast because we've had to accelerate our end of the year schedule by a couple of months because Andy is going away. He's being taken away for a little while, and he's going to need a break.
I am going to need a little bit of a break.
So where, Andrew, are you going?
Well, I have a buddy who has a kidney issue, and so I am actually going to willingly let a doctor slice me open, take out a perfectly good kidney, and then stitch me up and give this guy my kidney.
And leave you in a bathtub full of ice.
Yes.
Please tell me that's how this ends.
I didn't mention Mexico. I didn't mention the $10,000 of shady money.
I don't care anything about that. All I want to say is Lucy 2 better be called Andy. Take the kidney, replace it with some fantastic psychotropic future I
Am I going to be turned into a hard drive in the end?
USB, not a hard drive. That would have been a step up.
Maybe I will be the
You will be the hard drive. You are giving a kidney, and I joke about that because I'm so impressed, and I don't know how to handle fear. And so I make fun of it, but this is a big deal, and it's a scary thing. And I'm as I've told you before, I am deeply honored to be in your orbit, man. I think it's a big deal that you are doing this for your friend, and he better be grateful. That's all I'm saying.
Right, that son of a bitch.
And so they're going to be, I think, only one film board just coming right up. You're going to be missing the film board this coming week, which is really sad.
Because I really am looking forward to it.
I know. You're going to miss opening weekend of The Hobbit.
I know. I'm not going to be able to get out of bed for a few weeks, so I'll be seeing it hopefully before the end of the year. I am looking forward to listening to the episode once I finally get to see it.
That'll be a treat for you.
I know.
You'll never want to do anything again till then we'll leave the show at all, because in our completely, demonstrably incapable hands. This is so you're going to be taking pretty much the month of December off, and we will come back with new shows, new and current shows that aren't faked in early January. That's it, 2015.
In our Christmas episode, we're going to be announcing the winner of the Pony Prize, right?
Yes, that's coming right up. We've been talking about the Pony Prize for years. We now have a stable of prizes that we have corralled. And we are very excited to start shipping. So make room in your house, winner.
That's right. Yeah, it's pretty. We got some good things coming together.
We're never doing a contest again.
This contest costs so much money.
But we're very excited about some of the donations that we've been getting for this thing, and some of the in-kind gifts, and so we're very excited to be able to do this.
Yeah,
so,
we'll talk about that more next week when we announce the winner.
Yes, indeed.
Very exciting. Looking forward to it.
Welcome, everybody, to the next reel. I'm Pete Wright. That there is Andy Nelson.
Hey!
And we spoil movies. We're so glad you joined us for this fantastic... This is a talk about a family film. We're talking about 2000's Requiem for a Dream tonight, so get ready to pull out your popcorn and tissues and settle in for a good cry.
Bring the kiddies.
Bring the kiddies. But first, you should hang out with us at the website, thenextreel.com. You can learn all about us, about the past shows that we have done. You can join us for our film board episodes and hear the monthly gang of thugs gather together for our new release episodes, happen once a month. And you can join us on all of the sundry social networks, Facebook, Twitter, Google+, and Instagram. And while you're there, you should partake in the Instagram Guess the Movie Challenge. That would be a good place to go. Hey, usually here we would be talking about how excited we are that, and I think, judging by recent performance, how excited we are that one of our listeners has trumped us somehow in the Pony Prize, right?
Absolutely.
In our efforts to release the Kraken, I think our Kraken has gotten beaten more time than their Kraken.
It's not about beating people, Pete.
This is a full-on Pacific Rim kind of a contest right here.
Wow!
But here's what's so exciting about this. I'm very excited. We have to talk about tonight our very first product.
I know, it's really exciting.
Are you excited about that?
I am. I'm quivering with joy.
I wish you would stop, because now that's gross. Why we're excited about this is because, we had this idea a long time ago that when we did the Pony Prize, we wanted to release a shirt of some sort. We really wanted to have a custom shirt as part of this thing. And because we're us, we didn't get around to it for like 8 months. And so we went ahead and we finally got around to it. And you know what? The first thing that struck us was, we've got this guy, friend of the show, and a really fantastic artist, Joel Micah Harris. We've talked about him before. When I discovered him, when I saw his a post on Twitter of these fantastic kind of mashups. The samurai superhero mashups that were just great. I thought those were so much fun. So I reached out to Joel and asked him what he would think about doing some custom artwork for us for a shirt. So we did. We commissioned Joel to do some custom artwork, and the idea that we came up, I think this was your idea, right? The concept was the top 5 films.
Yeah, we're trying to figure out a way to incorporate maybe some of our favorites, and why not go to the top 5?
So we did. So we went to the top 5. So we went to the top 5 of our films. We gave those our top 5 list to Joel, and he came back with this really cool design. It is a film reel. This is theater for the mind right now. So imagine, close your eyes, everybody.
Is it the next reel?
It is the next. It's actually the next film reel. Mm-hmm. And inside, kind of nestled comfortably inside each of 5 of the what do they call them? Those ventilation holes. What are those called? The anatomy of a film reel. You should know. You should know this.
I should know that. What are they? It's like spokes.
They're like spokes. I don't know. 5 giant holes on the side of this film, this film reel, and Joel did some hand drawn animation, a cell animation of an iconic frame from each of the 5 top films.
Very cool.
It is very cool. It is really very, very cool. We're gonna. There's a little bit of a spoiler. what are the top 5 films?
Well, Network has been sitting pretty as our number 1 for quite a while. And then Raising Arizona kind of jumped up there, kind of snuck its way into there, didn't it?
It certainly did.
And then we've got Jaws, which has been in there for a little while.
Yep.
7. And then there's a little bit of a spoiler here with maybe tonight's movie.
Tonight's movie snuck right up to number 5. Amazing film in Requiem for a Dream. So this is a really fun piece of artwork. And this is, we've been doing this show. We sang Happy Birthday to ourselves. 3 years we've been doing the show, and never once have we had anything to offer to our listeners. And so we're very excited to have this shirt, to be able to kind of celebrate 3 years of talking about movies. And really, our hope is that you all really like the shirt and you feel comfortable spending your hard-earned dough to support the show. We do make a little bit. We obviously commission the work from Joel. He'll make a little bit. But, this show does come with some costs associated with it. And so we would very much love, as much as this is a passion for us to be able to do the show and be able to afford our time and resources to do the show, and we love doing it. If you guys like the show, if you like listening to the show, we sure would appreciate it if you would help support the show by celebrating with us 3 years of talking about movies, and wear this custom piece from Joel Micah Harris on your chest, celebrating where our top 5 sits as of now, the end of 2014. Does that cover it?
I think that covers it. And then I suppose we should also mention that whoever it is who does end up winning our Pony Prize in the drawing next week is actually going to get one of these as a part of the Pony Prize.
We should. Actually, I'm really glad you said that, because we're going to do the drawing next week. That means if you think you're in the running, or you have been playing a lot, the Instagram hashtag Pony Prize challenge, probably hold off on buying a shirt.
Just in case.
Or else realize you may get another one.
Right,
yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I should say, buy as many as you want and know you will get another one. How's that?
There you go.
So if you think you're interested in buying a shirt, which we hope you are, just head over to thenextreel.com, and there's a little button right there on the top of the sidebar there. Right there at the very top, it's got the shirt on it. So click on it, and it'll take you over to the store where you can buy the shirt.
I'm clicking right now.
You should. Premature click. Let's do trailers.
Okay, I'm going to go first.
Okay, just to get it out of the way.
Just get it out of the way. And it fits with what I was talking about earlier.
I wonder if people will see this coming.
I don't think they will. I don't think people have any clue that I'm going to talk about Joe Wright's Pan. It's not coming out till next summer. The trailer hit a few weeks back, but it's coming out next July. It's kind of the prequel to Peter Pan, I guess. And speaking of all the various iterations of Peter Pan, here we go, giving a backstory to where Peter Pan came from. And I will say, it looks pretty. There's lots of pretty stuff going on here. There's an interesting element to developing this backstory for Peter Pan as this orphan kid who has this letter from his mother, and somehow that...
I saw that movie once. It was called Annie.
Yeah, right, exactly. And he gets kidnapped by Blackbeard and his cronies. Blackbeard, played interestingly by Peter Jackson.
Hugh Jackman.
Yeah, Peter Jackson.
I mean, either one of them would do probably a fine job.
It's actually Peter Jackson, but he's doing some amazing... This is Weta, let me tell you. Some amazing CG work. It blew me away. Oh, yeah. Hugh Jackman, Peter Jackson, almost the same guy. But oddly enough, he looks like Robert Carlyle. So... So explain that one to me. I have no... Anyway, yeah. So Hugh Jackman. I don't know where Peter Jackson. So weird. What a weird brain thing. Anyway, Blackbeard apparently is in this world and is kidnapping children to mine for him, I guess. And then Peter Pan meets Hook and befriends him. Hook is Garrett Hedlund, and they kind of team up, and somehow the tribal peoples of Neverland are involved, but they look like, I don't know, they look almost more like colorful circus performers. And Rooney Mara is playing Tiger Lily, and there's been quite a bit of talk about, casting a white girl, the whole whitewashing thing, to play Tiger Lily, this native character. Although Neverland is a fictional land, there's all this nonsense about the casting of Tiger Lily and just everything going along with it. And I mean, to be honest, I think that part of the film is never been one of my favorites anyway of the entire story. So I don't know. It looks very colorful, very interesting, but I just can't say that I'm that excited about it. I mean, Joe Wright has done some great stuff. I love Pride and Prejudice. I really enjoy Hannah. Atonement has a lot of great stuff going for it. I've skipped some of the stuff like The Soloist, Anna Karenina, but I don't know. I'm not quite sure what to make of this one. I can't get myself that excited. I felt obligated to talk about it just because I have this Peter Pan aversion. And the writer is Jason Fuchs coming on board to write it. And, other than Ice Age Continental Drift and a few TV projects, he hasn't done much. So it's just one of those interesting things that here's this guy doing this big Peter Pan prequel. And I don't know. I have a feeling it's something that my kids will really enjoy, and I will be sitting there going, another Peter Pan movie. Shaking my head.
I feel for you, man.
Yeah.
This is a movie that will probably be fine by a good director delivering quality work with a solid cast about in a topic area that never needed really to be made.
Right. Exactly.
And I always think it's a mistake to name the film the same thing as the likely critical reaction to it.
Yeah, that never works out very well. Well, I guess it could go either way.
Yeah,
that's
right.
That's
the danger. The other thing that I find interesting about this film is that it seems to be very much at least from the early kind of press material, it's very much a Peter Jackson film, a Hugh Jackman film. I mean, he's getting an awful lot of press for his really great looking Blackbeard. You gotta.
Oh, completely. I agree.
So, I think it's visually it has a lot going for it. Interesting twists, and so if you're not old and withered up inside, this might be an interesting one to take in.
I guarantee I'll be seeing it because my kids are very excited.
Billed as a comedy doesn't strike me as that funny.
Comedy adventure, yeah.
No, laugh a minute. Kids. Orphan kids in the mines. Remember how funny? Speaking of real depth of cinema, my trailer is, I may be more excited for my trailer. I am doing, this has been out for a little while, but I watch it every day, multiple times a day, because it's still fantastic. Minions, coming summer of 2015. The animated story of Kevin, Stewart, and Bob. It is a prequel to Despicable Me, about the beginnings of the Minions who support Gru. We could see how their lives as they work to support the most evil creatures on the planet and have real trouble finding a good boss. And it looks hysterical. I'm sorry, I just love it. I am weak-willed for these little guys. I totally am. You know what it is? I have a theory. It's not even a very good theory, but I think that one of the things that I think is so compelling about these creatures, I think when in the absence of language, it's sort of universally slapstick. Like there's no depth of there isn't so much depth of story that you end up losing the story and falling out of love with the characters. You know what I mean? But at the same time, they have done so much to bring character out of these little guys with such a strange language. And so it is a bizarre paradox that I think we're stuck in. The film is directed by Kyle Balda and Pierre Coffin, and Pierre and Chris Renaud are the voices of all the Minions, and they were actually the directors of Despicable Me and Despicable Me 2. And so you can totally, I don't know the story behind the Minions, but you can totally just sort of feel how it happens. These two directors are probably voicing animatics, and everybody just falls in love with it in the process. And so I'm very excited to see how this shakes out. What do you think? Am I nuts?
No, I'm excited too. I mean, I am right there with you as far as my love for the Minions, and just the strangeness of them as characters, and this creates an interesting addition to the just the scope of these characters, and the fact that apparently they live for a really, really long time, like forever.
Like forever, yeah. There's just no question. They live in space. They live everywhere.
Right.
And exactly. They come from under the sea.
And it's just, they live with dinosaurs. I mean, it's very interesting. And I do agree with you. There's something about this nonsense language that they've created for these guys that is so much fun to just listen to and watch, because you can totally understand what it is they're saying and doing. And it actually takes me back to, I don't know if this is an apt comparison, but it takes me back to like Charlie Chaplin and the Buster Keaton and all that kind of slapstick short film sort of shenanigans that would go on, where you didn't necessarily need the dialogue to carry the story. You would just see funny people doing funny things, and you would be able to tell what's going on. And, I mean, my daughter is in love with Charlie Chaplin because of that very reason, and she's equally in love with the Minions. And I think that that's what these guys have smartly found. I
totally agree. And I think that is a great comparison because of that lack of language. The silent film comedies are really, I think it's channeled in Minions, and I think that lends a sort of cultural depth to these weird little yellow creatures. I know I'm totally overthinking these weird little yellow creatures, but I do love them so much. Mine comes out July 10th, 2015, so start your summers.
Hey, Pete.
Andrew.
We got a winner. I said we got a winner.
I like the way I feel. Now when I get the sun, I smile. I'm going to be on television. I just wanted to be on the show. I love you, Harry. I love you too, Mom. So don't worry, Seymour. It'll all work out. You'll see already. In the end, it's all right.
This film is a pick-me-up, huh?
I will say, as hard as this film is to watch, it leaves me in an amazing state of joy at the end.
Is that what that feeling is?
And it's because I'm watching a film by a filmmaker who does stuff in the process of making a film that truly just blows me away every time I watch it.
It really is a visually stunning film, and it becomes for me, and I haven't read the book. Have you read the book?
I haven't.
All right. So it becomes for me like just candy. It is just succulent to watch this film, and for me, it doesn't take very long before I'm not really paying as much attention to what is going on, and just letting it wash over me. It's just fascinating. how he puts these visuals together. It is just wonderful. Of course, we were talking about Requiem for a Dream 2000, Requiem for a Dream from the year 2000. It's a reboot. The director, obviously, Darren Aronofsky, based on the book and adaptation by Hubert Selby. Stars Jared Leto, Jennifer Connelly, Marlon Wayans, a wonderful performance by Marlon Wayans, and of course the incredibly challenging turn by the heroine of our series, Ellen Burstyn. Wow.
Yeah. This is a film that when I first saw this, I was like, every school, I mean, it's not really an appropriate film to show to kids, but I feel like every high school kid needs to watch this film to just understand the dangers of addiction.
This movie had some trouble with the ratings.
It did. Yes, it did.
You want to talk about that just real quick?
It's got dark stuff going on in it. And it's the sort of film that, I mean, when you hit that third act, there's stuff that is happening that is just really intense. And as intense as it is, it's integral to the story. It's incredibly important to have the elements that happen in those scenes. And the MPAA wanted to give it an NC-17. And you know, the whole thing with the NC-17 rating and the MPAA, I mean, it's just one of those things that is just very contentious, and it always bothers me because this rating was meant to create a new rating past R that just is for strictly adult films. And unfortunately, it immediately got labeled as a pornography rating. All the at the time, the video stores said they wouldn't carry NC-17, and they lost the whole point of what this rating was supposed to be. And yet the MPAA still tries to give this rating out periodically. This was one of the films that did it. And of course, all the theater chains say, well, we won't show it because it's NC-17. And so every filmmaker who goes up against this rating by the MPAA really has to do this big battle against them and try to appeal it and try to do whatever they can. Aronofsky appealed the rating, saying that if I cut anything out of it, it's going to dilute the message. And the MPAA, of course, denied it. Luckily, Artisan Entertainment had come in. They had distributed Pi for him beforehand, and they wanted to release it unrated. They believed in it and thought that they could do it. And there are still some theater chains who will still show unrated films out there, typically more the art house theaters. And so it did get its release as an unrated film, the one that Darren Aronofsky had approved. And but because of that, it just didn't get as wide a release as it could have and perhaps should have. They did end up cutting it down to an R-rated version to reduce the sex scene at the end. When they released it on video, that's really the only scene that they kind of cut down. But I mean, and they also obviously have the unrated version out there, which I think is the only one that ever made it to DVD and Blu-ray and all that sort of stuff.
Right, and that's what you can get on direct-to-digital too, is the unrated director's cut.
Yeah, right.
It obviously the cast and Aronofsky came out and spoke very strongly about it, about this ratings issue, and their contention is that it really underscores a misunderstanding and a misguided intent, a misguided understanding of what youth knows about, and that there is an attempt to squash sexuality in the face of really, horrific violence in other films, films that don't get an R or NC-17 rating, that are horribly violent, but don't have any of the sex in them. While this film otherwise is not that violent, it does depict some uncomfortable sequences of drug use, and that are difficult to watch, certainly, but was really given that rating for for the sexual content. And the version I watched, it'd been several years since I've seen the film, and the version I watched was this the director's cut, the unrated version. I don't remember if I'd seen the unrated version before, but honestly, I hadn't even recalled that this was controversy about this particular film until after I watched it and started reading up on it. It didn't strike me as particularly shocking, obviously, with eyes that have seen more since. But what was your take on it? Did it seem like it was worth it?
Well, you mean the unrated nature of it?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just one of those things where, and I call it a sex scene. It's really not a sex scene. I mean, there is something sexual happening in the scene, but not in the nature that's in any way, shape, or form enjoyable
right.
for the viewer or Marion, the character that is participating in it. It's a very uncomfortable scene to watch because we are watching this girl at the bottom of her place in this story, where she has decided that the what she needs in order to be happy and kind of get back to where she wants to be is to be high, and the only way she can do that, because she doesn't have any money, she doesn't have her boyfriend around, is to sell herself for sex, and it's in the really just the most horrifying way in this
very public,
it's this group, this whole group of men watching, chanting as she and this other woman are in the
performing,
middle. Doing a show, and it's sickening to watch, just as sickening as the other three stories. It's very difficult to see. I mean, I guess Marlon Wayans' story is not. It's he's in prison and stirring slop. I mean, it's not
compared. That guy got off easy.
Yeah, he's the one who's just like, well, maybe he can make it out of this.
He got a G rating.
Stir that soup. NC-17 on that. Woo. Did you see the soup?
Yeah. Did you see the soup?
So, again, like you said, the MPAA is really misguided in their need to slap a rating arbitrarily on something just because of what happens to be on screen, without paying any attention to what the message is going on behind that. I mean, I would be more comfortable giving this an R rating so that more people could potentially see this, because it's an uncomfortable thing to watch, and it really portrays the horrors of these addictions that these people fall into, rather than some of the atrocious horror films that I always end up watching, like like Hostel or things like that. That it's just, I mean, it's the torture porn sort of stuff. The fact that those films can get the R rating, and this film that is actually trying to say something cannot. I think that is the problem that the MPAA.
That's why I wanted to hear your thoughts on that, because that's that Jared Leto came in one of his pressers was saying that this was one of those things that he said, I've shown this to young people who can't see this film in a theater, and they change the way they think about their lives as a result of it. This is it's horrible. Nobody comes away thinking this is at all aspirational. Nobody comes away saying they want to live this lifestyle when they see this film. They always come away thinking, oh my gosh, there was nothing sexy about that sex. There was nothing. I mean, it was all at the very lowest of these, as you say, of each of these characters' arcs, and being able to have that conversation, I think is it trumps ratings often, and that's. I don't know. I'm certainly not going to show my 12-year-old Requiem for a Dream, but at some point we're going to have that conversation, and it's going to be, it's because it's important. It says an important thing.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, it is a film. I would. I just don't know how, but I would love to have youth watch this. Maybe when they turn 17, this is something that that everybody watches, just to look at the horrors of addiction, whether it's addiction to television to kind of get through the day, or diet pills, or drugs, or anything to that you can become addicted to kind of try to get your mind to whatever it is that you dream that you can achieve, without actually focusing on the life that you're actually in and trying to actually make it there in a realistic setting.
Right. And that is ultimately the message of the film. I'm glad you brought us around to that.
Yeah.
Because we could talk about this other stuff all day long.
Right. Damn the MPAA.
The film is told in some typical, fantastically frenetic Aronofsky style, and it does explore the way addiction infects four characters in this film, and it's tricky. The way the story is constructed, because I think at its very best, there is a point in the film where you really believe that all of these people are going to make it.
Yeah.
And it's fairly early in the film, and you think grandma's going to lose weight, and the kids are going to open the store, and the other guy's he's going to be fine with his girlfriend. They're going to be fine, and their house is really getting put together, and everybody's got work, and it's completely that point is, you hit this sort of aspirational bit where you see the payoff of the lure of the substances that they're on. That, you really can change your body with these little drugs. You really can. You can lose weight, and you can put the cash away in order to open the store. And your girlfriend can start making clothes. You can do that. You can have everything you possibly want. And then one day you're running from your own refrigerator.
Right. That happens to me.
Mm-hmm.
Scared of refrigerators.
I think that twist ends up being really artful and something that is and profound, because it's not just a surface. It doesn't really, to me, feel like any sort of surface achievement. It feels very much like a substantive achievement of goals and dreams. Because we've already seen that, particularly in Leto's character, we've already seen him at his lowest. The film opens with him at a low, stealing his mother's television set to hawk it again, and again and again, and so it really feels like he's climbing up out of this trough and figuring out how to use the life in order to make something of himself. And then it all turns. And that, for me, is the highlight of the structure of this film.
It is a really interesting structure, watching the kind of the ups and downs. And it's interesting that it's tied into seasons also, which I believe that's also how the novel is structured, where you have these 3 seasons. Fittingly, summer is really kind of where you have the high point. Fall is aptly named as you start seeing the fall of each of these characters. Even though they still have some hope, they're still trying to cling to those last golden moments of summer and everything. And then, of course, winter, when everything really falls apart. And it really fits wonderfully structurally the way that builds and tells the story of all of these characters, with their highs and lows and the things that they the paths they go on to get what they need. And it's interesting how it can start so small for them. In all their cases, Sarah starts really just trying to do these diets because she wants to fit into this red dress again.
And go on television.
Right, to go on television, because she gets this one of these random sales calls that says, "Oh, we're going to get you on the show," and of course isn't necessarily a call to actually get on the show. We never really find out that whole thing, but it just seems kind of like a scam, perhaps. Regardless, it sets her off on getting into this red dress. She tries dieting. one of her friends mentions these weight loss pills, and it seems very casual. It doesn't seem like anything grand could potentially happen with this. Likewise with Harry and Tyrone, they kind of start as, hey, I mean, yes, they're already kind of in the life of drugs and crime and all of that, so they're already in a place where they're off to a bad start, but at least it seems manageable, and they actually do have a goal, which is distributors. Again, within their world, they're doing well. They want to be distributors, and they initially are like, okay, well, hey, we just got to test it, make sure that this stuff is good. And it seems like they're keeping their wits about them as they move forward and do this, and things seem to be working. But, things happen. And you keep seeing that progression as this diet pill's not working for anymore. Okay, well, I'll sneak a second one, and Tyrone is talking to the one of the dealers and it ends up going bad. Everyone gets killed, and you kind of see how these things slowly start turning, and the spiral begins. These people just don't have the control or the wherewithal to get themselves going the other direction.
Well, and there is another part of that twist that I like so much is that it not only shows the fall as they start careening kind of off the cliff, but it shows the importance for each of them of their escape mechanism. And yes. Sarah's is the most, I think. It's kind of the most interesting for me because she, in her monologue, she has a beautiful scene between her son Harry, where she says, "I've got nothing, right? I have nothing left. You are gone. Your father is gone, and I am an old lady, and I've got nothing." And we have seen her and this sense of escape through the television that I think is it really is palpable. I mean, she's alone, and Harry becomes the enabler of that as his fortunes begin to turn, and he has a little bit more money. He goes and buys her, not a nice dinner out with him or some some book club membership. He buys her a larger, more prominent television that takes up an even greater role in her escape, and so that escape for her leads directly to this drug addiction, to these diet pills that, I think is interesting because I don't think I've ever seen a neighborhood grandma addict like this.
Yeah.
Right. This is to me it's shocking, not because of what she does, but because of who she is, and it makes what she does that much more palpable.
It's horrifying. It truly is horrifying because despite the struggle in the relationship between Sarah and Harry, I mean, as you mentioned, he's always going and stealing her television to go hawk it to get some money to buy drugs. She goes, buys it back. You've got this perpetual cycle going on. There's clearly some problems in their relationship and her as this enabler. But she doesn't have anything, and she has her friends. She sits out on the curb with them, and all that. And Ellen Burstyn really created this character that is, despite her flaws, you feel the need to you're drawn to her. You feel the need to kind of support her decisions because she has this grandmotherly / motherly presence that you want everything to go okay for. And when she has those moments, like you said, that monologue, which is so touching, and it's just, how she has nothing, and these pills, it's a reason to get up in the morning. And, it really breaks your heart and draws you into that character. And it gives you this person that we, like you said, we've never seen this before, and it makes it that much more powerful that Selby created her as really one of our kind of key protagonists of this story that we are attached to, drawn to, and then are forced to watch her fall.
She, Ellen Burstyn, says that this is this is perhaps her most challenging role. This is what she said in 2000 of her performance in this film. Being able to truck in a drug movie like this is disconcerting, disquieting. Mm-hmm. But she delivers, I think, it's the performance of her career in this film. I mean, it is stunningly good.
And it blows me away every time I see her, how good she is in this. And as much as I enjoy Erin Brockovich and Julia Roberts in it, Ellen Burstyn should have won the Oscar for this. No questions asked. Even against the other ones, Juliette Binoche for Chocolat, Joan Allen for The Contender, or Laura Linney for You Can Count on Me. I think Ellen Burstyn absolutely towered over all of those other actresses this year and should have won. It was such a dark story. It's not something the Academy voters want to vote for.
No, and that's the problem, because I think probably what hurt her performance was being in a film that also had these other things: the degrading sex shows, the controversy around ratings. It just hurt, because otherwise her performance is transcendent. And as a short, you can imagine just taking her sequence as a short and just watching her for 30 minutes go through that transformation and run from her appliances and end in the very lowest of the low. I mean, she's just as she's involuntarily committed to a psychiatric treatment and gets shock therapy. I mean, it is just stunning. I could absolutely watch that soup to nuts without the rest of the film. Even she's that good.
She is that good. She brings the gravitas to the performance. She has. They all really tap into the soul of the film. They all really carry a lot of weight as to that power of hope and loss that I think is so critical for this story. And but hers, I think, for me, I always find it the most heartbreaking.
Most heartbreaking because it's the one I can connect to the easiest. I mean, she might as well have been Grandma Wanda. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like she's my grandmother. Capital M. My grandmother.
She's my mother. It's
right.
Watching her, it's like, gosh, she really. I'm not saying my mother is in this place, but but it really, just Ellen Burstyn, her look and everything reminds me of my mother, and so when I watch her, I feel like, in particular, just the way that she performs here, it really hits me. It's like, oof.
That's not to say that the other characters don't have their own fantastically horrifying downward slide. We've already talked about Jennifer Connelly as Marion Silver and her journey into the underground sex trade. Jared Leto has some forearm problems.
There are anyone who had questioned up to Dallas Buyers Club whether Jared Leto could pull off an Oscar-worthy performance need only go back to this.
Absolutely.
I think he is just as brilliant here as he is in Dallas Buyers Club. He, I think, has always proven himself a rock solid actor, even when it's stuff like watching Panic Room, which is a very fun kind of different type of film, but it's very it still works really well in context of the film that it is. Here he really taps into just kind of a darker place, and he plays that character who again has these dreams but never quite is able to figure out how to actually make them happen, and I think he does that so well. And man, that hole in his arm is disgusting.
No. That is his particular demon. He and his buddy, Tyrone, played obviously by Marlon Wayans, decide they need to go down to Florida to buy wholesale some of their product and get it back up so that they can make more money off of it. And along the way, Tyrone discovers that what Harry has been concealing is a horrifically infected. What do they even call it? What is
It's almost like his track marks.
It's his track mark. It's his track marks, right? So this is how I'm. It's been a long time since I was on the street. And so it's really it's grotesque, and it's so grotesque that Harry ends up being arrested and losing his arm.
Yep.
No.
Yeah, that is almost the most fitting and most horrifying climax to that incredibly intense finale we have in the third act. Just the climax of all four stories coming together and having that intense climax at the same time. Sarah getting her shock treatment, Marion doing the sex show, Damon stirring that soup, and then Jared getting his arm cut off, and you just hear that saw start up, and the way that it cuts in, and the saw whines as it cuts through skin and bone, is just almost like the most fitting conclusion to the horror of everything that we've seen.
And you're right. Talk a little bit about the visuals of that climax. I mean, the way they construct that sequence, the way Aronofsky constructs that sequence is particularly fitting. What can you describe it? The visual nature of it?
Well, I think it ties into a lot of what the visual nature is, and we'll talk about all the other visual tricks that Aronofsky is playing all through this. But he really uses a very it really is just his cutting style. He created this intense cutting style that ties in perfectly with the music, which we have to talk about, and just the action going on the screen of just like this rapid fire cutting from one scene to the other that creates this beat that we keep seeing and feeling as we go from Sarah getting shocked to Marion in the act to the doctor's prepping his arm to the stirring of the soup, and just everything is just like creating this beat. And it really I think in this particular scene it's mostly just kind of a master class in using the editing as a tool to kind of create that the beat that continues to speed up. It's almost like this heartbeat as we get faster and faster before it all kind of slows down and crashes. That I think is the thing that we see. It almost creates this pulsating effect that you're watching there, that you can't kind of slow down and you can't look away.
The editing is done by the wonderfully talented Jay Rabinowitz. Have we talked about him? I don't think we have. He's been around since the late
early
80s.
Early 90s.
Yeah. Most recently, edited Rosewater for Jon Stewart. So he's kind of been on my mind a little bit. But he very much has. He's got kind of that. He's got that Aronofsky, Terrence Malick. He's got sort of that. He's in that class of filmmaker, and I think he has an incredibly delicate touch in the film. Just as you say, knowing exactly where to cut, exactly how to position the frame with the music is a particular gift, and I think he has a wonderfully intuitive touch to this to his work here.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay,
so do you want to? Are we moving on from because I also want to talk about music, and that seems to be a nice place to go. What do you want to talk about first?
Well, I know we already mentioned Marlon Wayans, but I just have to say, having only seen Marlon Wayans in comedies ever, I had no idea that this was in him.
Yeah.
It really floored me to see him go to a place like this. And I think it was it was one of those things. I mean, this was the same year that he did Dungeons and Dragons and Scary Movie.
Yeah.
So just knowing that this was in there, I had no idea, and it was very exciting for me to see that Damon Wayans did have it in him to
Marlon
Wayans had it in him to pull a character like this out of him, out of himself, and create something that had. Again, all of these characters, I think, had to find this place of hope and loss. And we have these flashbacks of him and his mother and kind of that connection that is created there. But then we also have the loss for him. And he really is the only character I feel that there's much hope for, or any potential hope for, if anyone. At least I like to think that there is. I feel like, okay, he's in prison. Maybe he might be able to find a way to get himself out of this whole thing. I don't know, but I hope.
That always strikes me, right? Again, I don't know what the bent is on the book in terms of race in this film or in the story. But isn't it interesting that I also have the most hope, and I think we're set up as audience members to have the most hope for Marlon Wayans' character, and he's the black guy. Mm-hmm. Like all of the stereotypical, all of the stereotypes are kind of turned on their ear in this film. And I think that's one of the reasons that it's so challenging, is because race, yet one other stereotype that is turned on its ear, is, we're left seeing how this character, Marlon Wayans' character, is set to be rehabilitated. He keeps all his limbs. He's not getting electroshock therapy. He's not performing in an underground sex show. He's the guy who gets into the track of rehabilitation at the end of this film, and that's the one I walk away saying, "Gosh, thank goodness that guy's going to make it."
Yeah,
because it's not what we would normally expect from a film like this.
Right, exactly.
What a breath of fresh air.
Here.
Okay, so,
and then
where would you like to go from here?
Well, I do also just want to mention Christopher McDonald. I think,
yes,
Tappy Tibbins, we've got a winner, is a great character. It's a small role, and it's not like a huge stretch or anything, but it's a really fun character, and it is an absolutely critical character in the context of the story, creating this almost Tony Robbins-esque sort of character that wasn't in the original novel, that really is I think a very good visual interpretation of this connection that Sarah has to TV, and in particular, it turns incredibly frightening when Red Sarah, the really freaky version of Sarah in her TV dreams, comes out of the TV along with Tappy Tibbins and brings like the whole crowd in, and they start doing this mad mambo around Sarah sitting in her chair. It's one of the most frightening things to watch. And Christopher McDonald is one of those actors who he'll pop into things, whether it's a bit player or a bigger role. He always brings something to the table. I always have a great time watching him. I think one of my favorite performances of his is Thelma and Louise as Daryl. I think he's so good in that role. I just love him. But in this is just this really solid character that he created here that works really well in context of the story. And I just wanted to make sure we mentioned him.
Well, and you know who else we didn't mention is Dr. Pill, Peter Maloney. Mm-hmm. Who we talked briefly about in The Thing. He played George Bennings in The Thing. Another smallish, interesting role here. He's the mom keeps going back for the drugs,
right?
To Dr. Pill, and I find is just sort of wandering in the frame and wandering back out. In that case, not turning any particular stereotype of the medical community on its ear, but playing right into its warm and fuzzy hands. I particularly enjoyed seeing him pop up here.
What's great about that role is he said that Aronofsky gave him some of the most challenging direction that he's had, and that was when he first comes into the room, when Sarah comes in to get the drugs for the first time. Mm-hmm. Aronofsky told him, whatever you do not make eye contact with her. And so he had a really hard time. But if you watch that, he never looks up at her. He's looking down in his notebook the whole time. He said it was one of the hardest bits of direction that he ever had been given. But it was, I think it was critical to the part.
Well, it is critical to playing off that stereotype, because that's what we think that doctors do.
Right.
Very, very well played. They don't pay attention. That's what we believe.
Right.
Sorry, doctors. All the doctors.
Except mine.
Who's really,
I know you listen.
Always listening. On to the creators of the film. We haven't actually yet talked about Aronofsky. You want to give me your film school pitch about why you love him so much?
Well, he's a director that I think is always trying to do something interesting, even if I don't always like his films. Pi, I thought it was a very interesting, low-budget indie film. It did some interesting things. It was a hard film to watch, but I did find it really interesting. The Fountain, I also found very interesting to watch, even if I didn't connect with the story that much. The Wrestler, The Black Swan, I thought both of those were fantastic. Noah, I think he really did something very unique that a lot of people weren't expecting, and I think a lot of religious people ended up. I don't know. I feel like a lot of religious people ended up finding it a failure on the part of telling the story of Noah as they see how it's told in the Bible. But I found it incredibly interesting and kind of just a beautiful look at that story. He's a filmmaker who is always doing something. I mean, maybe now we talk about some of the techniques that he throws in here, because I think he is not a filmmaker who says, okay, well, let's just put the camera here and have them say this, and then we'll do this and we'll do this. He's looking for ways to use the camera and use the tools presented in front of him to enhance the story and to tell the story in a way that is visual, because it is such a visual medium. I think right out of the box, we jump into split screens, which is an amazing opportunity that we rarely see. I think there are some filmmakers who use them well, some filmmakers who use them sometimes well and sometimes not. Brian De Palma. I think Aronofsky uses it really well here. The way that he does these split screens to give a kind of an interesting subjective look of both characters' points of view at the same time, while also creating this world where these characters are together but separate. You've got that split screen at the beginning between Sarah and Harry, but I think one of the most powerful split screens for me is when you have Harry and Marion when they're kind of laying in bed together having a conversation. And he could have just shot that as a wide shot, seeing both of these two together. But what he does is he actually shoots it in split screen, and by doing that, separating these characters and creating this, this constant separation that fits what he's trying to do with the film. Aside from that, he's got what he calls kind of these hip hop montages that are just these kind of just these intense, lot of cuts, doing these really cool montages of like how they're injecting when they get high, and you've got quick shot of the eye, the iris dilating. You've got a quick shot of the cotton ball in the spoon. Mm-hmm. You got, the flame, all those different things. The sound design, the way they play with that. He's got this thing that they call the Snorri cam, and that's where you got the camera almost like on a harness on top of each actor, and you get that almost GoPro. It doesn't phase us anymore because we get all these GoPro films all the time that we're seeing now. which is essentially what he was doing back then, with a much more complicated rig, which he uses on 3 of the 4 characters. He does a triple exposure at one point of Sarah Goldfarb as she's kind of dancing around her room. There's rotoscoping. He's got the vibrata-cam shaky thing as they're kind of screaming at the end, and the camera's shaking like it's reacting to their sound waves. A lot of POV, great time-lapse usage. There's a flare at the end, slow motion, fast motion, fisheye lenses. He plays with all of it, and I think that's what makes me so excited about watching this film and watching stuff that Aronofsky does in his films. Is he's looking for opportunities to use his tools to tell the most visual representation of the story that he has in the script form.
I couldn't agree more, and you just said all of the things that I agree with. So I have nothing really to add, but I do want to, the things I wrote down that, particularly these montages, the jump cutting, that he does to such great effect. And in this film, it's to great effect because it's a visual technique that specifically accelerates a story point, which is, the cyclical nature of drug abuse. And for all of these characters, we get at least one montage of them doing drugs again and again and again, or at least one repetition of them doing drugs again and again and again. And it cuts from all of these things. In Sarah's case, it cuts from pill to pill to pill, purple in the morning, red, orange in the afternoon, whatever. I'm eating an egg or a grapefruit. There's a great little jump cut where it's talking about the egg and grapefruit and how upset she is that she has to go on this particular diet before she finds the pills, where we just have a shot of a plate with an egg and a plate with a bowl of an uneaten grapefruit cut in half, and then a jump cut to the egg shell and the empty husk of the grapefruit. And it's just a wonderful, it accelerates our emotional appeal for Sarah, that we know that the diet is hard because she was able to eat that so quickly. It was that jump cut that told us how quickly that she was able to eat it. It's a wonderful visual technique. But when you talk about the shaky cam and the rotoscoping, I can't help but imagine that those techniques are essentially, breaking the fourth wall for us as an audience, as audience members. That these techniques give us the sense that the film itself is responding to what is going on in it, and that gives this piece in particular a sense of texture, a sense of involvement. That there is a sequence where Wayans screams at the bars and everything starts to shake around us at the end, and it feels like your television is actually shaking around you. It is a sense that you are involved and taking part, and that your world around you is responding to what is going on. There aren't very many movies that feel as encompassing, as sort of enveloping as Requiem for a Dream in that regard.
Absolutely, it's storytelling. In the world of film, much like Edgar Wright does, as we've talked about him and how he uses the camera to make his stories feel alive, but done in a way, not just for fun. I mean, Edgar Wright is brilliant at it, don't get me wrong. It works so well for his stories to tell the types of stories that he's telling. But in Aronofsky's hands, when he's really putting forth a story that he's really trying to say something, he uses the tools to help him say those things.
There's a sense of violence to it, that he's reaching out and dragging you along with it. And that's what I can't help, but it is so difficult to put this film down once you start it, because it really feels like Aronofsky is reaching out and dragging you by the collar along with these characters in this film. It feels that real.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, we think highly of him then.
Highly of him. And speaking of a lot of the stuff that we were talking about just now, I think that we should also point out that his partner in crime on creating a lot of these shots in the look is Matthew Libatique.
Yes, cinematography, who
who I believe has worked with him on
everything that he's done. Since he had done some projects pre-Pi, but yeah, Pi, Requiem. See if he did The Fountain, Black Swan. I don't think he did The Wrestler. I think that's the one that he ended up not working on with him.
Talk about a guy who has his hands in a lot of things. Mathieu Lebatique. I mean, he does these Aronofsky films. He does a ton of music videos for high-profile artists, and the big budget tentpole films: Iron Man, Iron Man 2, Cowboys and Aliens.
Yeah,
not as bad as most people think.
I still haven't bothered trying to watch that one.
It is not as bad as you will undoubtedly think.
Man.
In any case, very talented guy, and you think about the multiple exposures, what did you say it was, the wide angle GoPro, the snotty cam,
the snorri cam,
snorri cam. Those are cinematographic techniques, right? Those are being able to think about how and where to put the right technology in place to capture the story. It's incredibly innovative.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the snorri cam. It's like a chest cam, body mounted camera. SNORRI. I was trying to figure out.
That's a snotty cam. What is that?
The snotty cam. It's named after two Icelandic photographers and directors, Einar Snorri and I'm not even sure how you pronounce that. Eivor Snorri?
Eivor Snorri.
Your Snorri and Eivor Snorri.
And Eivor Snorri. Eivor Snorri and your Snorri?
The Snorri brothers.
The Snorri bros. They're not related. That's very funny. Yeah. I did not actually know this. Have you used a Snorri cam yourself? I'm looking at images of the Snorri cam, and I can see, it's a chest-mounted steady cam.
Right,
it's not actually steady.
It's not. The whole idea is that it really gives...
In fact, not steady at all.
It gives the ultimate POV is really what it's doing. It puts you into the mindset because you're almost locked into the viewpoint of whoever it is that's carrying the camera.
Right.
Yeah.
Creepy.
Yeah.
Not light.
I can't imagine it is. It really depends on the type of camera you're using. And I don't know what they shot this film with. I don't know if I'm assuming it's 35, so that means they're, but for those scenes were they using a 16 millimeter camera and then blow it up? I don't know. Just don't know.
I'm looking at a picture here, thanks to internet, of Jennifer Connelly wearing the Snorri cam.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yes, and it's... it looks like, you wouldn't forget it's there. Let's just say that.
Nice and big, huh?
Yeah, you'd know. You'd know. Let's talk about music a little bit, shall we?
Yes, we absolutely need to talk about the music of this film because it's every bit as perfect for the film in context of what Aronofsky is doing with the visuals.
Clint Mansell is the composer. Why? Tell me why it affects you so.
Clint is another person that has kind of started with Aronofsky. Pi was his first film as composer, and he's gone on to do I think almost all the rest of his films except for he did do Noah. For some reason, I was thinking he didn't, but yeah, he's done all of his films. Really interesting composer. Sometimes his stuff works better than others, but it's always very interesting, I think. And he's doing something really interesting here. He does just with bringing the Kronos Quartet in to bring a lot to the music, and their stuff is just the haunting strings that you get done in really fascinating ways. Just the intense, like staccato nature of some of it, and the pulsating stuff. And he throws in some electronics, and he does all these samples. Like I heard that he's got a sample in here of some like Bruce Lee punch sound effect or something like that he kind of throws in to blend with the music. And that's
it makes for an intense listen. But, this was a film I just remember walking out of it the first time when I saw it in the theater, feeling like the music was... There couldn't be any other music for the film. It was the most perfect music for this film because it's every bit as intense as the visuals that Aronofsky is presenting. And it almost like is the heartbeat, your own heartbeat that is pulsing as you're watching this kind of horror show that it kind of devolves into. And it's just done in a way that I don't know, it really gets under my skin, but in a way that I think is critical for the film and not in a way that I find annoying in any way.
I have the very same reaction. I couldn't help but having the same reaction that I have to Trent Reznor's score for Girl with Dragon Tattoo. It's that same sort of grinding thing, but you can't... just when you feel like you can't listen to it anymore, something incredibly dark and hauntingly beautiful comes in. And ends up... it was funny. I mean, it's been long enough since I watched this film. The main, that sort of Lux Eterna, which has been used in a number of places since then, sounds so familiar to me that I'd forgotten that it was originally here. Right. It was originally from this score, but it's that sort of throbbing, haunting, and at the same time just beautiful music. It really fits, but it's one of those scores that you can listen to. It's good work music.
I actually agree. This is not. We've talked about some film scores that work really well in context of the film, but are hard to listen to outside of it. This one, I completely agree. I think this music is really listenable, and yes, there's definitely some intense parts to it, but there's just some absolutely just crushingly beautiful pieces.
Yeah, absolutely agree. It really fits for the film.
Again, I feel like he unjustly was not nominated for Best Original Score. Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon won. Dun Tan did, I think, great music for that film. The other nominees were Rachel Portman's Chocolat, Hans Zimmer for Gladiator, Ennio Morricone for Malena, and John Williams for The Patriot. I would pick this above any of them. Other than maybe Gladiator, I don't know if I could actually hum anything from any of those films right now. Not that that's saying that defines what's going to win, but this film, the music, I think, does what a score should. It integrates perfectly into the film, enhances all of the emotions within the film. And I think it's a really dark film, and again, people overlook a lot of things from this film because of that.
Yeah, I agree with you. Although I do think it was, I think it's a strong second in the race against Crouching Tiger. I love that score.
It's good. It's good. I mean, yeah. You're right, but I'd still pick this one.
I hear you, but it's a grudge pick,
right?
We'll talk about. I know we sort of jumped around a little bit. You want to talk about any visual effects?
Yeah. This was I think Aronofsky brought in some of his people that he had worked with before. I think they started working with each other around the time of this, or maybe just before. But the company Amoeba Proteus, they did some really interesting effects in this film that work really well. Whether it's kind of creating the interesting scenes that you needed some rotoscoping, like where Sarah is walking down the street, and it's almost like she's walking in slow motion, but everyone's moving fast motion around her, or the same thing happening to her in the doctor's office. Mm-hmm. One of the most powerful moments for me, and it's one of those moments that I don't think people actually even realize what's happening visual effects wise. I think it's just something that affects you psychologically as you watch the film. But the moment where they finish the shock treatment on Sarah Goldfarb, you've got this shot of her overhead looking down on her as she's just kind of laying there. And they actually went in and they left her head, the way it is, but they took her features, her eyes, nose, and mouth, and they actually just they slowly shrunk them just ever so slightly as she's kind of fading away.
It's really awful.
It really is.
It's just awful.
It's but it's so powerful.
It's so subtle, and yes, it's so powerful, and it's horrible. Why do you do that to an audience?
I don't know.
But you're right. It's that visual impact of her fading away. We know she's fading away. We know she's gone, but we get to see it. Oh, just gross.
It really is horrifying.
Yeah.
And then you've got the great, like the effects that are done on set, like the fantastic, frightening fridge monster.
Yeah. Practical effects, like bringing the appliances to life, and the thing ends up. It looks pretty scary.
It's pretty terrifying. I mean, aside from the wonderful sound design that goes along with that, which I think is incredibly haunting. It's just intense. But man, when that thing finally rips open and like comes at her, and you've got that just like flaming red interior of the fridge, it's pretty scary.
Yeah. Nice and complimentary of the in-camera work, the visual effects on this film.
Yeah, absolutely. Just mentioning Hubert Selby Jr., I think, as the author of this book that it's based on. He wrote this back in 1978. He also wrote Last Exit to Brooklyn. A writer who, it's just interesting listening to him speak, because he's somebody who really kind of preaches the whole notion that talent is you can work to find the talent, that it's not necessarily something that's born within you. He says that it takes him a long time to be able to write the quality stuff that he writes. He's not a good writer, and he really struggles to make stuff good. And I think that's really interesting. It's a perspective you don't hear from people all the time. You always say, "Oh, talent is born, not made," or whatever. And he really is kind of somebody who preaches you can make it. You just have to really put your mind to it, and you have to fight and struggle and do it every day. But you can make it happen.
You can make it happen. You just have to believe, Andy.
Yeah. Yeah, it's you just have to believe. Are you pulling Peter Pan back in? Man.
I'm so glad you got that.
Everybody clap. Clap if you believe. Oh, man.
Oh, that's good. I haven't read any of his work. Have you read it? Did you read Last Exit to Brooklyn? He hasn't written much.
No, I haven't read it, and it's. But I don't know, because of just rewatching this, and I haven't even seen Last Exit to Brooklyn. It's one of those things that I feel a little bit of guilt after rewatching this. The fact that when I first watched this, it didn't inspire me to jump on it quicker and actually read some of his stuff, but now, looking at this again, I'm like, I really need to read Last Exit to Brooklyn and Requiem for a Dream. I really want to kind of put those under my belt, because I think, I love this film so much. As the creator of the original source material, I feel like I owe it to him. You do. He's keeping score. He's passed away, but he's keeping score. He is. Yes, indeed. Yeah. All right. What are your other goodies? You always have goodies. Well, let me look at my goodies. I think that the one little goodie that I wanted to throw your way is that somebody in the props department is named Peter Wright. Oh, that was me. It was you. I didn't want to tell you. I wanted to just let you have this kind of, I know you like this movie, but I was there the whole time. You were there. Yeah. Just didn't want to. I was actually the fridge master. A fridge wrangler. I'm sorry, they called me. Right. Nice. Okay, so a couple last things. I think it's very, very fitting that the kind of that music style, that mambo music that Clint created for this, Darren kind of describes that mad mambo as Bugs Bunny dancing on Elmer Fudd's head, which I think is very fitting. That music does have that kind of manic Looney Tunes feel to it. And when everybody from the TV comes and starts dancing around Sarah, it actually really feels that way. And I think that's a great description of that. And just one of those things that I think is very, it's almost like horrifying. You throw that into it, and it seems funny, but then you kind of think about what's happening. You're like, oh, it's just so shocking.
That's right. You think of this. Hey, did you see Requiem for a Dream? It makes me think of Bugs Bunny doing anything. You've probably gone down the rabbit hole a little bit.
Just a little bit. Yeah. Just a little bit. And then the last thing that I wanted to say is the fact that the only time we actually see a needle injection is and it's horrifying, but it's when
it's in the volcano.
It's the last time we see him inject, and it's the volcano. We see him inject into his horrifying arm wound, and it just furthers the whole idea that this is not something you ever want done. It's just so gross. So gross.
Yeah. It's a do as I say, not as I do moment.
Yes, exactly.
This film was well received.
Critically, it was well received. Yes, it was very well received critically. This was a film, it was his second film. It came out in 2000. He did come up with $4,500. Wow, things you could do these days. $4.5 million. So, a pretty decent budget for a second film. I believe that he had done some developing of this film in the Sundance Writers Group and stuff like that. A great opportunity for filmmakers that are kind of proving themselves and on track to do some great stuff. And it helped him develop some of his film. In fact, they actually helped him. They convinced him that at the end of the film, you need to have a last moment between Marion and Harry. And that's what led him to add that moment of the phone call, which I think is a very touching moment between the two of them, especially Jennifer Connelly is just an amazing performance in that scene.
Absolutely, I agree.
But anyway, he did get $4.5 million to make this film. I couldn't find anything on prints and advertising. It, again, releasing an unrated film, I don't know how much Artisan ended up putting behind it, but it ended up domestically not grossing more than it cost, about $3.6 million, but internationally about a little more, $3.7 million. So it did make its money back. All told, adjusted profit per finished minute, it ended up making about $38,000 per finished minute. So it's not one of the highest ones on our list, but like you said, critically, the critics really felt that there was an incredibly strong film here.
That's a relief. A little bit, but it made its money back. It's a great film, and it made its money back. At least somebody saw it. And what is most interesting to me is that I think you get to see a little bit of the impact of the ratings board when you compare international tickets to international receipts to domestic. In this case, I think you're probably right. We see a take suffering in the U.S., but abroad, particularly Europe, less restriction, if I recall, and particularly in 2000, around seeing films that are not suffering the might of the ratings board.
They don't shy away from stuff quite as much, and I don't think
they're prude about very different things.
Right.
Every country has its prude. Let's just get that out of the way.
That is true. But this one I don't think is one that they're prudish about.
Yeah. So that's interesting. That is interesting to me.
Yeah, very much so.
Let's rank it.
Let's do it.
Head over to flickchart.com/thenextreel, and you can catch up with all the films that we like, see if the films that we like match up with the films that you like, and then we could get our films to go out on a date. Maybe see a movie. Maybe get a nice bowl of soup.
Is that weird? Films going to see a film?
I don't think it's weird. I'm not filmist.
Well, good.
Films can do whatever they want. It's 2014 going on 2015. Film wants to take in a film, it can go ahead and do just that.
What an old way of thinking I had. Thank you for straightening me out.
You just have to believe.
All right. You ready?
Oh, I'm ready.
Requiem for a Dream. This is going to be hard because I hold Requiem in very high esteem. And higher than a lot of these films. And I would probably put it pretty high on my list. But it also is a hard film to watch. So we'll see where it lands. Requiem for a Dream or Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
I would go Requiem.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of what the film does. But are we ranking it again? Are we ranking it because of which film we would put on first?
I'm ranking it...
We've only done this 170,000 times.
I know. I'm ranking this on the grounds that again, like I said at the beginning, when this film is over, I have a huge smile on my face because I can tell that I just watched a master at work. And as tough as the story is to watch, I am blown away every time.
Okay, I agree with that. I'm smiling, but I'm in the fetal position. Okay, I'll give you that. On those grounds, I agree with you. Requiem for a Dream.
Requiem for a Dream or City of God?
Requiem for a Dream.
I agree. Requiem for a Dream. Requiem for a Dream or The World's End?
Requiem for a Dream.
I agree. Requiem for a Dream or Brazil?
I would go Requiem for a Dream on this one.
Yeah, in context of what I was just saying, I'm going to go Requiem for a Dream. What?
All right.
Requiem for a Dream or Inception?
Requiem for a Dream.
I agree. Requiem for a Dream or Seven?
Seven.
Master filmmakers at work. I will go. Interestingly, two films that both. I'm left with that same feeling at the end of both of these.
Yes.
Films. So yes, Seven.
And
so that
I know what's in the box. So double win.
There you go. Well, that puts Requiem at number 5 on our list.
Oh, I'm so glad it stopped there.
Look at that, number 5.
I could have gone any further. I would have just held my breath and passed out.
That's true. Yes, right. But yeah, number 5 out of 163. It shot right up there.
Nice place to be.
Indeed.
Where? So this was in our lovely Ellen Burstyn series, and where do we take it from here?
That was kind of the end of our short Ellen Burstyn series, which was a great series. But now, Pete, it's time to cheer things up. It's time for the holidays. Let's watch a holiday movie.
Oh, okay. Let's do that.
Let's watch.
Pray tell, what holiday movie would we watch? Something? Does it involve miracles and numbered streets? Perhaps.
Actually, it doesn't.
Well,
it involves.
And does it involve crafty pets that tell us a story of love, loss, but redemption?
Unfortunately, no.
Does it? I give up, Andy. Tell me, what are we going to watch?
We're going to jump back to 1947. We're going to watch the Cary Grant, Loretta Young, David Niven film, The Bishop's Wife.
David Niven?
Mm-hmm. Directed by Henry Koster.
I'm looking forward to this movie.
I am too.
Cary
I've never
Grant.
seen it. I've never seen the remake, The Preacher's Wife. So I'm looking forward to this kind of a thing with our holiday movies. We end up picking these things that we've never seen, and I'm quite looking forward to it.
I am too. This is going to be a lot of fun, and boy, and then well, let's just say our holiday set, I think, it's a pair of kings.
I agree.
So the Bishop's Live next week, and fine, happy holidays to everybody. Go catch this one and hope it's good, because we don't know.
That's right. We don't know. We're just hoping. Fingers crossed.
And I guess that's it. I gotta go to bed.
I've got a bagel and lox sitting on the counter that I think I'm going to go eat, and maybe some jelly donuts and some other things in my fridge.
All right, I got one, and it's from MMA Fan. It's a 5-star, and I never go 5-star. But
Whoa.
It's a 5-star because I see there is some that we've got numerology at work. Because, we just flick charted this, and it landed where?
Number 5.
Okay, and the first review that I pick up is from MMA Fan. Nothing else like it. 5 stars, he writes. Of the 200 DVDs I own, this is my top 5.
Wow.
Also, MMA Fan agrees with us. The movie is brutally, truthfully shown in a fictitious story. That's true. If you ask anyone who has seen this movie what they felt like after, they will all say the same thing. It leaves you sick and sad and makes it all worth talking about. Clint Mansell also does an outstanding job with the music. The soundtrack is amazing. I've never seen any movie that left me scared of what I could put my body/life through. Opens your eyes and will leave you stunned at the ending. You go, MMA Fan. Amazon loves you. Your turn.
Well, Guest Account doesn't agree with MMA Fan.
Ooh.
Guest Account gave it 1 star and said, boring, pretentious, and moralizing. Aronofsky uses every gimmicky camera and editing move in the book in an attempt to jolt some life into this otherwise leaden addiction movie. It doesn't work. Ellen Burstyn chews the scenery. Jared Leto commits an oral atrocity with his Brooklyn accent. And Jennifer Connelly just sits there. Every now and then you catch her using one of the 2 expressions in her repertoire. This movie is pointless.
Oh, I think they saw a different movie.
And Guest Account has some serious comments left on their review.
Do tell. Anything good?
Just how wrong they are, really. It's the fact that Guest Account, probably put in the name Guest Account because they didn't want people to know that they are an idiot.
Andy, it is hard to believe that we have been having in-depth weekly conversations about movies since 2011.
You are telling me. Producing this show week after week requires a ton of work behind the scenes. If you'd like to help support our efforts, one easy way is by using our originals page when shopping for books and movies that we've covered.
Just visit thenextreel.com/originals. Your purchases made through our links give us a small commission at no extra cost to you and allow us to keep having these great discussions.
I love The Next Reel Season 4. Do you know why?
I don't. Why?
Because we got to talk about my favorite movie, Terry Gilliam's Brazil.
That's not even an adaptation.
No, but it was such a great part of our great Terry Gilliam series, and a few others in that series were adaptations, like The Adventures of Baron Munchausen, adapted from Raspi's stories, and La Jetée, which inspired 12 Monkeys.
Oh, right. And for our Man with No Name trilogy, we saw how Sergio Leone's A Fistful of Dollars was basically stolen from Kurosawa's Yojimbo.
We added Labor Day to our Jason Reitman series, adapted from Joyce Maynard's novel.
Oof, there's one we'll always regret.
Our big Stephen King series covered adaptations like The Shining, Cujo, Christine, and Stand By Me, great horror and coming-of-age tales.
Another Coen Brothers adaptation, too. We got to talk about how they turned Homer's The Odyssey into Oh, Brother, Where Art Thou?
For our holiday series, we did The Bishop's Wife and The Poseidon Adventure.
And who could forget seeing Alec Guinness in the adaptation of Kind Hearts and Coronets during our series dedicated to him.
We really need to do more of his films.
Truly.
We had our first film noir series with classics like Double Indemnity, Detour, and Out of the Past.
And our black and white cinematography of James Wong Howe's series with The Thin Man, Sweet Smell of Success, Seconds, and King's Row. So many adaptations.
Oh, you're not kidding. Dive deeper into these originals and more at thenextreel.com/originals. Every book you buy helps support our show.
Get the full list at thenextreel.com/originals and start reading today.